Okay, continuing here with some short videos and functions that will be useful for CSS. The first one we looked at that allows us to use variables in CSS is really useful for when we use the same color a lot on the page, which between the homework and your final projects, you've probably noticed happens a lot. We don't have a long list of colors. The next one comes in useful for sizing. I'll make a slight change here and switch that to go in the header. Oh, that added an extra curly brace I didn't need. And switch this to go just on the footer. Again, it added an extra curly brace. And I guess there's a main element as well. I'll come back over here. So I'll put borders on each one of those. Maybe the main doesn't need the full border, so I'll just add test border, 1 pixel, dotted red, and throw that as a border on the main so we can see it. Border, call the variable test border. And that was in the previous video, but then we have some borders around stuff so we can see where everything's lined, where everything falls. And now we need to do some sizing for our layout. So like on our width, I'm going to move this down here. That way I'm not scrolling up and down constantly. So if we set some width, so maybe that header doesn't need to be that wide. So like width of 10%. And the main can have a width of 80%, so they'll fit next to each other. And the footer, give that a width of 30%. And set the margin left and margin right to auto to center it. And then float these. So the main, we can float that to the right. The header, we can float that to the left. And the footer, we will put that when it's clear on both sides. All things we've seen before, nothing fancy yet. If we come over here and preview, we kind of get how that lines up. But maybe we want the height to be a certain size. And what we've seen so far, we would just kind of try different errors. Try a little bit bigger number, a little bit bigger number. Might end up down here and be like, oh, that's too big, make it smaller. But there is a function to help us find sizes. So if we know like different font sizes and things like that we're using, I'll set the height. And instead of just trying to add that up on paper and throw it in here, we can use the calc function, which will allow us to mix and match units. So maybe we know something we want to line up with is 3.2 elements plus a 12 pixel border plus another 8-point font somewhere. And we can mix and match units to get our sizes. The book mentions this very briefly in one sentence and then never talks about it again. So it's, I guess, one of the later drafts after it was created, they added a sentence into the textbook, but they never really spend a lot of time with it. And it can be incredibly useful. Did I not save that? Oh, I did save it. Let's make the minimum height that. No. Maybe that's not as big as I thought it was. Let's add 5 elements and 123 pixels. That way I know it's going to be big and show. There we go. So it added all those numbers together to find that. So if we wanted to line up with, say, this, maybe we had 3.2 elements here and 8-point font here. Can probably go do that real quick. which I guess that's backwards order from what this should have been in, but for some of our other paragraphs, I added a couple classes expecting to do this. So we have some important paragraphs. Maybe those have a font size of 3.2 elements. And then we have some regular paragraphs. Maybe those have a font size of 8 point. And we get better alignment. I guess there's still another 123 pixels I added in this. But the main point is we have this calculate function that allows us to get sizes. Let's do something that comes out evenly for math. So 120 pixels. And then on any of the paragraph tags, which I already have a paragraph, but we haven't done this in class. Let's just add another paragraph because we can do that. And set our min height on each of those paragraphs to 60 pixels. And then that'll add up to those 120 pixels. Oh, 3.2, not 5.2. You see, we get better alignment from these things. Something's not lining up. I was expecting those numbers to line up better than that. Did I get that off? 5.2, 8 point font, 120 pixels. Well, this video is approaching 7 minutes, and that's what I wanted to make the limit. There's some extra space in there somewhere I'm forgetting as I'm trying to do this really quick off the top of my head. But you can see it gives us that nice little way to do those complicated calculations right here. The computer can handle that. We can mix and match units. Any of our measurement sizes we have, we can just put in the calc function, mix and match, and come up with, and it will calculate the correct size. As long as you don't skip something like I did in the video, but it's coming on 7 minutes and the gist of it's there. Once again, this is something to practice around with. Just give it a try in some of your different little practice spots, or maybe your project or homework, if you can find a spot for it where the sizes might need to line up like that, instead of typing in the number directly and going through the trial and error to figure out where it is. But something else to play around with, and I've got one more useful function for a third video that I will be back in just a moment with the third video for. Give these things a try.